International Relations from Johns Hopkins in 1993. She speaks Portuguese, Portunal, along with a little bit of Hindi, Swahili, and French. So quite an amazing woman. And I will say the last time I was on a webinar with you, Camille, it was kind of fun because you volunteered to improvise with me and show just how flexible and adaptable you are. So won't you give us an introduction to the event today?
Thank you so much, Karen, and I would be delighted to. And given our need to improv this morning, we couldn't have asked for a better moderator. And it's no surprise that your company is a top company in the U.S. because you are clearly very talented, resilient, and adaptable. So thank you so much for helping us to overcome these technical issues and to start the event. So good morning to those of you here in the United States, and good afternoon to our friends and colleagues on the other side of the pond in the MEA region. I am so delighted to be here today to basically launch this event that has emerged from a collaboration between us and our American Chambers of Commerce. A lot of people tend to confuse us, the U.S. Commercial Service, which is the diplomatic arm of the Commerce Department of the U.S. government, and the American Chambers of Commerce. They're private, we're public, but we work together very, very well. And so this is just one example of that type of collaboration. We created a Women Empowered Leave Legacies Through Trade and Investment, or WELLTI, as we nicknamed it, event today to feature 6 powerful leaders in some of the key markets in the Middle East and Africa. I'm particularly excited about this because, as I mentioned, when we launched this back in January, we did it because Commerce's mission is to grow the U.S. economy. And under the Biden-Harris administration, it's to do that through shared prosperity and by increasing our trade and investment ties around the world. So through the WELLTI initiative, we seek to move women from those most seriously impacted from the pandemic. We all know that there are childcare issues and transportation issues and financial issues. The pandemic has just complicated everything. We've been hearing about it for the past 6 months. And figure out, how we as the U.S. government can bring some resources to the table. We figure that if we provide information, data, contacts, and sprinkle in some inspiring stories on top of that, that we can help move women from those most seriously impacted by the pandemic to those who are at the vanguard of economic recovery. So you'll get to hear some stories today from 6 very powerful women executives who are there moving and shaking in the MEA region. And we hope that, as we have done with our coffee chats in the past, that their stories will inspire you. Maybe you'll get some lessons learned. Maybe you'll get some best practices. Maybe for those of you in the United States, you'll even be inspired to contact us and our AmCham partners to help you explore some business opportunities in the Middle East. So as we actively embrace the priority of including women in international trade, we look to continue on this path of presenting women with great insights into what works. We are actually on a March to March, and we will have a summit, a WELLTI event, as part of our trade wins in 2022 in March in Dubai, March 6th through 8th, appropriately ending on International Women's Day. And as we're on that March to March, our AmCham collaborators are with us every step of the way as we stay in touch and we learn about and we celebrate the triumphs, the overcoming of the challenges of U.S. companies out there in the markets and across various sectors. Did you know that the International Trade Labor Organization, or the ILO, tells us that in many countries, more than 90% of all enterprises can be classified as small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs. And these are including micro-enterprise firms that have fewer than 10 employees. And in most of the OECD countries, SMEs contribute to more than 50% of GDP. The International Trade Center tells us that women own nearly 10 million of the world's SMEs. And SMEs account for nearly 80% of jobs globally. So sustainable economic growth and the achievement of development goals are possible only through the active participation of women, which is why we are here today. Another statistic for you. According to McKinsey, advancing women's equality could add up to $28 trillion to the global GDP by 2025. That would be the equivalent of adding a new economy the size of the United States and another economy the size of China to the global economy. economy. So there is a need to do more to support and drive greater engagement by women as business leaders and encourage their participation in global markets. Again, why we're here today. And we're beginning to see significant steps being taken in this direction. This year, we have seen women step into key leadership positions that impact trade. Some of the women leaders that come to mind include the World Trade Organization's historic appointment of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, I'm sorry if I butchered her name, of Nigeria, as Director General of the WTO. We also have Isabelle Durant of Belgium, who serves as the Acting Secretary General of the UN Committee on Trade and Development, or also known as UNCTAD. We have Pamela Coke Hamilton of Jamaica, who serves as the Executive Director of the International Trade Center. We have Ambassador Catherine Tai, who is our U.S. Trade Representative. And we have our very own Secretary of Commerce, proud to say, Gina Raimondo, who has definitely taken up women's empowerment as a standard and as a priority for the department. So with that, I'm going to conclude. I'm just so excited to be here with everyone today. I look forward to hearing your insights and for everybody to get really excited about what's next. Thank you.
So I think, there we go. Thank you, Alex. Camille, thank you so much. What incredible statistics, right? The world needs us. We could create so much more economic strength around the world. They need us. So let's get to it, to the people here you've all been waiting to hear from. First of all, I'd like to introduce Sylvia Manassa. She's the CEO of AmCham Egypt. Give them a little wave, Sylvia.
Hello.
Hi, are we using a phone, Sylvia?
Can you see me? Can you hear me? I'm here.
I can hear you great.
Yeah.
There we go. Hi, fantastic.
Hi.
Thank you so much. All right. Now, Sylvia joined AmCham in 1982 when it was just a small office in a small room and simply a steering committee. In Egypt, they are the leading voice of the private sector and deeply believe in improving the private sector because that's going to be the engine of growth within the Egyptian community. Sylvia loves working with the U.S. mission participants in that sector. She is a scientist. She is a scientist by background and has a master's in chemistry and a PhD from Georgetown in biophysics. So Sylvia, I understand that you also have some experience in improvisation and the ability to embrace the unexpected because you made a serious pivot at one point from being a science professor.
Yes, of course. Hi, Karen. Thank you for the organizers for this wonderful, instrumental, timely initiative. And thank you for the opportunity of joining such an impressive lineup of panelists and speakers. Yes, as you mentioned, I was at Georgetown University doing my PhD fellowship in biophysics, but at the very last, and I had to come back to Egypt just to join my husband back then. And then I was approached at the start of the establishment of AmCham Egypt. I was then and still am driven by the advocacy efforts in Egypt. And I enjoy working every day on supporting the private sector.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. You know, it's amazing how sometimes something in improv, there's a concept called oops to eureka. It felt like an oops probably that you suddenly had to leave your position, and yet eureka, here you are leading AmCham. So thank you for that service. The next person I would love to introduce is Liz Benesky. Liz is the executive director of AmCham Abu Dhabi. She's been 32 years in the hospitality industry. She went from being literally a dishwasher to the C-suite. I mean, talk about what an amazing success story while building a company. Liz is a permanent UAE resident because AmCham Abu Dhabi was the job she was supposed to have at a time when she was needed. I have to say, it sounds like it was kind of a fun gap year. We hear you have kind of an interesting story too. We wanted to hear something a little more personal outside of the bio, meeting someone that probably any of us would recognize worldwide. Can you tell that story?
Well, absolutely. It was a pivotal moment of my life. And firstly, I just want to say thank you to Karen, all my sisters of AmCham. Great to see you here. And Deputy Secretary Miss Richardson, an honor. So I'm sitting there a good 3 decades ago in the Waldorf Astoria in New York with my hoped to be fiance. And we were looking at a jewelry store and we were dreaming of the future. And of course, I was a girl looking at rings, and behind us, he heard a familiar voice. And he said something along the lines of, buy the girl the ring. And I knew who it was immediately. And I turned around without a beat, pivoting, if you will, and said, well, I'd love to, Mr. Sinatra, but I think you're going to have to buy him a drink first. And old Blue Eyes bought us a drink at Peacock Alley. And he did his best to convince Glenn to buy me the ring. And the happy story is I didn't get the big ring, but I got the best guy. My husband and I were married for over 18 years. And that was my story of having a drink with Frank Sinatra.
Wow, that's a really good story. I'm loving all of these personal stories. Thank you so much, Liz, for sharing. And it looks like Rabia El Alama has joined us. Rabia, are you here?
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me today.
Hello. You know, it's ironic, Rabia, you were the first panelist to sign into the other link where it wasn't working, and then we switched over. So thank you for your tenacity for staying in there. I'd like to tell them a little bit about you. This amazing woman, Rabia El Alama, is the executive director of AmCham Morocco with over 30 years of experience. She is passionate about the U.S. and Morocco relationship within AmCham and about supporting entrepreneurs and creating new opportunities for them. She's a facilitator for women's advancement and started a Women in Business conference where they provide opportunities and skills for women to advance their own franchises, e-commerce businesses, and everything so that they can attend trade shows. Really amazing. So I have to say, I also got to see you on one of the coffee chats, which was a real honor a while back. You did a fantastic job of managing that. And I hear too that you are quite an environmentalist, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely, absolutely. Be it at home or in the office, I'm a fan of recycling and using and transforming. And recently, like 5 years ago, my husband has this piece of land, few acres, 1 hour from Casablanca, and it was empty land. And I say, I want to plant trees. He said, are you sure? I said, yes, I want to contribute to the environment. And we planted 10,000 pomegranate trees. And soon, we'll get the fruits, that we will either say locally or export. But we built that, 10,000 trees to protect the environment and to create also some job opportunities for the rural areas, as I said, 1 hour from Casablanca.
Oh, thank you so much for doing that for the world. 10,000 trees. That is not a small thing. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rabia. The next woman I'd love to introduce you to is Angela Russell. Hi, Angela.
Good morning, everyone there. Good afternoon, everyone on the continent.
There you go. Angela Russell is the CEO of AmCham South Africa and has worked 23 years in South Africa and the Middle East, including India. She has a very strong commercial background and has great experience in sales and marketing. She started out as a nurse and transitioned into the commercial sector as she believes the art of possibility. Yes. She is currently undertaking a master's in leadership coaching from Johannesburg University. Fantastic. And, as performers, we understand the importance of self-worth and time to make sure that we're centered for any performance. And I understand that you too really have a great commitment to having time to be centered and to take care of yourself. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, so I mean, I'm a huge advocate of self-care, and I think as a nurse, mental health is very important, especially during these COVID-19 times. And I think, as working women, we have families, we have children, so it's really essential that we take care of ourselves. There is a saying that you cannot pour from an empty cup. And I think, often we don't take enough time to look after ourselves. But really, I think for myself, I have an absolute passion for fine art. And during some time out, I paint beautiful oil paintings. And I think everyone has to find something that they're passionate about and actually discipline themselves to take some time out for themselves to kind of recharge the batteries.
Angela, I think that's especially true for women. We all are so burnt out in so many ways from the pandemic, and women, the demands on us worldwide were incredible. So thank you for that message of remembering to care for ourselves. And I'm going to remember that you can't pour from an empty cup. That's great. All right. Our next panelist is Rose Alisi. Rose, hi. Can you say hi, Rose? I want to bring you up on the screen.
Hello. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, you sound great. You sound great. Okay, So Rose is the CEO of AmCham Jordan. Rose got her start in education, specifically English literature. She's been a part of several accelerator programs and is a passionate advocate for women leaders. In particular, she's a mentor to groups focusing on women in tech and startups and has done that at different universities. Rose believes in the importance of business and its impact on a community. She loves working with these smaller organizations. So Rose, you had shared with us that there's someone very special in your family that inspired you to do this.
First, thank you, Karen, for this kind introduction. And I want to thank Camille and Janae and all the organizers. It's wonderful to be part of this program, and I hope this is the beginning of something bigger that we'll all do together. I'm humbled to be among these successful CEOs that are inspirational, and I loved hearing their personal stories. For me, yes, I have a very special grandma. I was named after her, and she's been an inspiration to me because at the time, were very limited in Jordan, inspired us by continuing her education and making sure that all the family, change their path and believe that we can do so much. And I have taken the opportunity to actually record some of her work by starting writing a book, which is called She Gave Me Her Name. And it's a very personal experience for me that I just shared with you. So a lot of people don't even know that I started this endeavor, and it's very close to my heart. And honestly, introducing me like this is, putting me in a different light, because I'm known to be an effective advocate and somebody who works on exports and business and investment. So it's very nice to be presented in this light, because it's very close to my heart to work with women and to see the growth, specifically working with the youth and people, women in the governorates where they really need the support. So I'm very excited to be part of this, and I hope that we can incorporate some of those programs as sustainable programs within our AmChams to continue working on these endeavors.
Oh, Rose, thank you so much. And thank you for just sharing your passion. I feel like all of you, the real you is coming through, and we see why you drive and do so many incredible things. It is my honor to introduce our last panel, the amazing Margaret Alele. Margaret, are you there? Can you say hello?
I'm here.
Ah, good. I wanted to try to bring
Karen.
your picture up there. There we go. Okay, so Margaret Alele is the executive director of AmCham Nigeria. Margaret got her start in the private sector, and she focuses on building relationships in business. I'll tell you, Margaret has decades of incredible experience, multiple degrees. She writes about women's issues and the concerns for women and youth in her area. She is published writer. She's a podcast host for the American Business Council, and she has always worked to support women and find ways to advance women and achieve their potential. So, I hear, Margaret, that you and I both have an artistic interest in common.
Yeah, in a lot of ways actually, and mine came out of necessity, right? So during the lockdown and with the podcast story, I just really needed to do something. So I reached out to my son and I said, we were planning to have a radio program on the American Business Council as a part of the communication strategy and all, but we're not able to do that. Studios are locked and all. So can we do anything? And he said to me, oh, by the way, he's a graduate student of Georgetown University. And he said, you know what, we can record these on Zoom. And so I reached out to a friend of mine who also heads a social impact organization, and said, perhaps we should do something around, talk about the COVID issues and all. And so we said what we call the exchange COVID-19 and beyond. And my son was the third host, and so he works with Corporate Council on Africa, and so we started this conversation and had 7 episodes. And after these 7 episodes, which and after the lockdown, and I said, well, I mean, we can actually transit from these to something really typical for the ABC. And so we started the exchange, how business really works. And since then, we've done like 15 episodes, and interestingly, 10 of those, my guests are women. I actually checked 3 yesterday and I was surprised. I was like, okay, this is not a coincidence. But yeah, it's been very, very exciting. And
Congratulations. Congratulations. So everybody look for that podcast. Go out there, take a listen. I bet it's going to be really illuminating. Thank you so much, Margaret. So today, let's get into the questions right away. We're going to be hearing a lot from each of these women in their regions about situations and statistics that affect women. So I'm going to go straight. I'm going to go straight to you, Sylvia. Sylvia, you know, how are women-owned businesses succeeding in your market in Egypt?
So for the first few years, the Egyptian government has been adopting policies that help advance the role of women in the economy on every level. There's a national strategy for women that was developed, aligned with the UN SDGs, and that echoes Egypt's 2030 Sustainable Development Strategy. For the first time, we have almost 20% of cabinet members that are women. Women are now serving as governors, and 148 seats in the parliament are occupied by women, accounting for 25%. Now, this also translates into progressive policies that support the advancement of women-led businesses and offers aid to women entrepreneurs in their startups and business ventures. Allow me to share a few examples of ongoing successful national initiatives that contribute to the success of women-owned businesses. The Central Bank of Egypt passed policies to facilitate microfinancing schemes for SMEs, generally and particularly for women-owned. The regulation mandates that by December 2022, at least 25% of commercial bank loan portfolios be directed towards SME lending. Now, this is huge. 160 billion Egyptian pounds has been injected to finance 86,000 SMEs as of January 2020. And Egypt is rapidly progressing on its financial inclusion journey. The Closing Gender Gap Accelerator Initiative that is led by our Minister of International Cooperation together with the National Council for Women and the World Economic Forum seeks to support women-led startups across Egypt. All multilateral institutions work on women empowerment. USAID works in partnership with the government of Egypt to reduce gender gaps across a wide range of sectors. USAID has had several projects and many, many more to come that are integrating women as active participants in the economy and that remove constraints to their participation in SMEs enterprises. For instance, one component of the USAID's SEED project, known as the Strengthening Entrepreneurship and Enterprise Development Project, provides business development services, introduces new financial tools, and enhances financial management to help women launch new businesses. IFC, EBRD, all of them provide advisory services to banks to build profitable business lines in the women customer segment. Stimulating equal opportunities for women entrepreneurs is a UN Women flagship program. Now in Egypt, the project is focusing on creating a pool of women-owned businesses that can be integrated into the Procter & Gamble, the P&G supply chain. This is an example showing how multilateral institutions work together with the private sector on creating positive change. Now, to sum up, there are 34 projects worth 3.3 billion US dollars being executed in Egypt right now to achieve the targets of gender equality. Top-rated sectors include health, and then medium, small, and micro enterprises. Now, alongside the efforts of the governments, there are global program opportunities, as you all know, that reach out specifically to women. The fact that we are having eligible Egyptian women applicants getting shortlisted and winners, which wasn't the case before, is groundbreaking. Compared to 10 years ago, women now encounter a completely different experience. Support has massively increased with more funding opportunities available. Let me very briefly turn over to AmCham Egypt to share with you, again briefly, on what we do at AmCham through our network of 2,000 members in supporting women entrepreneurs to succeed. Through the work of our Entrepreneurship and Innovation Committee and the Women in Business Committee, two of our 24 sector focused committees, AmCham works on building awareness, creating networking opportunities, and advocating for policies that support the advancement of women. Our Policy and Advocacy Subcommittee is lobbying policymakers regularly to come up with regulations in favor of women-owned entrepreneurs and startups. Policies that would further enable their access to finance. Policies that would provide additional tax incentives and export subsidies and encourage more venture capital and investment in their businesses. We have a mentorship subcommittee that solicits the interest from our different AmCham members, our executives, to serve as mentors for entrepreneurs, especially women. Our investment subcommittees works on increasing funding opportunities for women through linking them to potential investors, VCs, and angel investors. A corporate engagement subcommittee focuses on helping startups scale up their businesses by integrating those women-owned businesses into the supply chain of major corporations. We're having a major conference in September that is called the Egyptian Dream, Hilm Masri. The whole idea is focused on corporate engagement, business matchmaking opportunities for our entrepreneurs.
Wow, I like that. The Egyptian dream. Beautiful.
The Egyptian, yeah, it follows the American dream. So it's a very successful program that we are all working on. Now we have a well-established career development center, and this continuously provides tailored programs across all of Egypt to women-owned businesses on business management and access to different financing tools. Now I have to say that to carry on our work to increase impact and increase outreach, we work very closely with our long-standing partners at the US Embassy, the Foreign Commercial Service, and with USAID. We also have several ongoing agreements with all the multilateral institutions operating in Egypt.
Sylvia, this is really amazing. I do think that you're hitting on something that's really important. I remember I got turned down for bank loans here in the United States. Partly because I was a woman, they said that I only had a kitchen business and they didn't support that. It actually took a female banker that I met finally to give me my first loan. And that critical first seed money is really what makes a difference for women trying to get off the ground. So I'm thrilled to hear that it sounds like Egypt is a great place to come in and get that kind of support. I mean, not to mention companies like Procter and Gamble, once they make commitments to really put their money where their mouth is in a sense and have those women come in, it makes a huge difference in the region.
Of course. Can
Absolutely.
we imagine integrating those women owned businesses into supply chains of major corporations like Procter and Gamble's and the like?
Great. Now, Sylvia, if you could just very quickly, can you just give us a little insight? Because I know from outside Egypt, I'm sure there are all sorts of assumptions that we have about what it's like to be a woman there, whether you're inside an organization as an executive or a team member, or whether you're a woman-owned business. Could you tell us just a few things about Egypt that we may not know?
Yes, of course. I'll share some statistics with you. So let's say that 83% of women-owned businesses are in the trade sector, while 14.5% are in the field of services and management. Women do not engage in industrial activities as much as male entrepreneurs, due that these activities need prior experience. Now, 30% of all businesses are owned by women. Those that are owned by women only have access to less than 10% of commercial bank financing. So again, the issue of bank financing, a big hurdle. Women-owned businesses in Egypt have unmet financing needs of 4.2 billion US dollars and a deposit potential of 2.9 billion dollars.
Okay.
Now, something very strong about Egypt is that Egypt's specific findings show that if the female workforce matches that of males, GDP would increase by 34%. Can you imagine what this means to Egypt when our GDP grows by 34%? Now, women in business are in managerial positions. So you have women across all leadership. We now have a new mandate that requires women to be on boards. So this is a new decree. We are working very, very closely with the Financial Regulatory Authority and with the Women Observatory, where we ensure that there's a list of women that can be provided to serve on boards, because this has become a mandate. Now, surprisingly, when it comes to women entrepreneurs, in Egypt, they are very geographically liberated. It's quite decentralized. Wherever they receive training, women entrepreneurs will flourish across all of Egypt, even in the most rural areas. This is in line with the development initiative of localizing and decentralizing job opportunities.
Good.
Now, this is not the norm and this is not the perception, but you actually find women across all of Egypt. There was also a
Wonderful.
misconception.
Sylvia, that's so fantastic. I so appreciate it, helping us to understand what's really going on there. Really insightful. Is there one last quote you'd like to give us? We're going to move on.
Yes, I'd just like to say that despite the huge challenges these women face, many Egyptian women entrepreneurs are successful across industry sectors. We are witnessing an unprecedented boom with women entrepreneurs now recognized globally, penetrating international markets and attracting US investments. We have tech services, digital platforms run by women, healthcare, fashion, design, jewelry that are becoming internationally recognized, architecture, and e-commerce is another success, with e-commerce penetration in Egypt growing, especially after COVID, at a rate of 33% annually. And believe it or not, a lot of women entrepreneurs are in logistics and e-commerce platforms. Now, we need to see more of them succeed if Egypt is to realize its full economic and development potential, as I said. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for this illuminating information. It sounds like it's a great place to get started, and there's a lot of promise in Egypt. So
And we can't
thank
wait
you.
to welcome you at AmCham. Please rest assured, there's always a very warm welcome at AmCham for any.
Which is wonderful, right? I think about some of the organizations in the US that help support me too, right? To get things going. And we're always, as women entrepreneurs, in need of support, right? So Liz, I'd love to go to you next. Liz, if you could tell us a little bit, since we were talking about barriers, let's just go straight into that. Could you talk about some barriers to success in the UAE that you could share with us?
Sure, thanks, Karen. Well, before I just want to brief very quickly about the UAE. The United Arab Emirates has set up a gender balance council, so they take care of a lot of these things that may be addressed in very different ways across the region, as well as the US. But they've made parity of 50-50 a goal for 2021. And although that's slightly delayed due to COVID, I can tell you that they're right on schedule. Our Federal National Council is about 50-50. And some interesting things, about half of all the SME sector businesses are handled and owned by women. And we're the second country in the world to make it mandatory for corporations and even government entities to include women on boards of directors. So they're really thinking long term and trying to take care of things. And although the just recent World Bank Group study of 2021 just came out, and the UAE went up 20 points, they're 82.5 out of 100 for women to do business in the UAE, there's still problems. Some of the problems are kind of simple, but they're the most important ones you alluded to earlier, Karen, when you started your company. There is a traditional network, shall we say, of how we do business, whether that's access to finance, whether that's trying to get access to those all-important requests for proposals and or quotations, and also simple things like supply chain, getting your goods, products, or services one-to-one to the people, the influencers, and the direct buyers. This still remains a challenge in this very multicultural, multinational, and multi-tolerance country. But there are changes. There are some ambitious reforms on the way. There are new banks, and we just got alert today. There are new banking opportunities being set up for women as part of one of their many initiatives here in Abu Dhabi, specifically encouraging SMEs, trying to get access to funding. But I will tell you, it's quite a challenge. It's probably, if not the number one discussed challenge, is access to finance and access to credit lines.
Oh boy. Well, you know what? As long as the discussion is happening, it
Exactly.
hopefully can keep getting better. You know, could you
Exactly.
share one of the success stories from your country? I think we'd love to hear what's working. Who's actually doing well?
Sure. Well, a very unique story, and she's actually had success during the pandemic. One of our members, her company name is Both UAE, which means back of the house, United Arab Emirates. She started about a decade and a half ago, basically operating as a PRO, kind of the fixer, the person who gets all the people their licenses, make sure you onboard your employees, ensures that you know are up to speed on all the human resources regulations, which are constantly evolving. It can even help a staff member open a bank account. Well, the woman who owns this company, Anna, we'll just go by Anna. Anna worked very hard, and it was very strange for her because she was a female in what is very typically a male-dominated industry. But she had the tenacity, and of course, she got turned down by loans, and she started out by financing herself by credit cards. We all know how harmful that can be, but she stayed with it, and she had strategic foresight. So prior to the pandemic, she and I were talking a lot about what's next, and we were embracing digital ecosystems, cloud technology, and an overall shift from the traditional way of doing things to the new way, the way that the traditional network of doing things didn't want to embrace out of fear of change, maybe fear of funding. Well, what happened? When the pandemic hit, we all had to change, did we not, Karen?
Yeah.
And her company was there, and they were ready. There was no ramp up time, and she has done exceedingly well. Her business has grown by 200% because she was able to find the solutions in a time when solutions couldn't be had. And here's the most exciting part. They have gone regional, and now they are going global. Her company is now going to be a multi-nation, multi-million-dollar SME, and it's because she had the ability to fight through it. So my encouragement out to all of you there is, women, we don't take no for an answer, and get creative. And she did it. So I'm very proud of Anna at Both UAE, and I just suggest following your thriving thoughts and don't take no for an answer.
That is so inspirational. Yeah, I mean, thank you. I could identify with so many of the aspects of that story, and I do think that our tenacity as women, no matter where we are, is definitely something that's going to make us able to get through this, right? And keep going, especially in a place like Korea. Liz, I can't thank you enough. I'd
My
love
pleasure.
to move to Rabia. Rabia, can you, you know, I tell you what, as we think about Morocco, Rabia, what are a couple of steps? Say there's a woman on this call that wants to start doing business in Morocco. How do we get started? Oh, you know what, Rabia, we can't hear you. Check your mute button there.
Sure. Getting started in Morocco, I will say, is something, I will say should be common steps for, new markets. And in Morocco in particular, what one should do, to access new opportunities is, I will say, first do market research and market intelligence. And I know that there are services in, charge of, providing market research and market intelligence, such as the U.S. Foreign Commercial Service and networks like the MCHAM. So market research, market intelligence is key to starting a business in Morocco or any other markets, in Africa. The other thing is I really encourage women to take part in trade missions. I've been working with our partner, the Foreign Commercial Service, who organize, annually some, cross-sectoral trade missions. And these missions are extremely powerful, and they connect these entrepreneurs to, partners and potential distributors for their brands. Trade shows. I mean, I'm a fan of trade shows. I've done, at least maybe 30, 40 trade shows, from the fancy food show in New York or the one in San Francisco to the Cosmoprof for cosmetics in Las Vegas, or the Orlando show, cosmetic show, where I had to take about 10 women to promote their brands in the US. So it should be similar for our American women entrepreneurs, to come to Morocco and exhibit their products, where there are some trade shows endorsed by the commercial service. And you can find sectors like, the water sector, you will find, tourism and hospitality sector. You can, exhibit in franchising and other sectors. So trade shows. Yes, absolutely. When you want to settle as a business, as I said, you have to join some credible networks, business networks. I'm also a strong believer that when you build a network, a reliable network, you'll make things happen faster and smarter. Because, as you say, this new era, oblige us to have credible professional business networks, from LinkedIn to your WhatsApp group, or to in-person networking events. And I always tell my, members or women entrepreneurs, when you build a network, you have to maintain your network. You have to reach out to your network. You have to, make yourself available to help the network, so they help you, because trade and business is a two-way street. So you have to help them, and they will always help you.
I can't help but comment on exactly what you said. So human behavior science shows that the more connected we are, the more networked we are, the more resilient we are, physically and also from a career perspective. So thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's also being, more efficient. When you want to put, for example, a panel discussion, with a strong network, you have that choice to get the best expertise, and they respond to you, like, I will say, swiftly, so you can make things happen efficiently and swiftly as well. When you want to settle as a business, as I said, you need to have the right advocate, the right advice, both in terms of the legal advice, choosing your lawyer, choosing your CPA, choosing your HR company is key, because you have to do it right and do it the first time. I have a lot of companies who will start wrong from the first time, and things are difficult for them. So always get the best advocate, the legal advice, the accounting and auditing advice, the HR, advice. And when you choose a partner, make sure you do some background research on a partner and ask networks like AmCham, as I always say, to promote my AmCham network, and also, our commercial service, as a network as well. With that, I will say, we're open for business. Reach out to us as AmCham and Foreign Commercial Service in Casablanca, Morocco, as we work daily together. We believe in this strategic partnership, and we make things happen together. So feel free to reach out to us, and we're available to help you and assist you access these new markets.
Oh, I hope all the attendees said that. That's so inspiring. So Rabia, I would also say, I feel like you just gave us an outline of how to do business. I would say it might be interesting to go to all of our panelists after this and say, what would you add to this checklist? It's like something I wish somebody had handed me when I was a younger entrepreneur after I had left the tech industry and was starting my business. I needed a checklist. That's fantastic. Could you please tell us a success story of a woman-owned business in Morocco? Do you have one that you can share?
Oh, we have so many of these success stories. I mean, from the girl who's like the most educated girl, like she went to the UK and studied in France, to someone who did like just basic education. And we see them both as very successful. Zuhra, who came with me to the women event in Dallas, she exhibited her argan oil and saffron from Morocco at the e-women conference in Dallas, was able to connect directly with women in the US. And she's now exporting her saffron and argan oil to the US. She's got the labels, like she's been certified by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. She also got the USDA label, and she's like succeeded in exporting to these markets. Recently, she was also approached by the same market to provide some pottery from Fez and Marrakesh. And she's been able also to connect with her network and get some quality products for the US market. Zuhra also export to Switzerland and to some other European countries. And recently she was approached by a luxury hotel, the Royal Mansour in Marrakesh and La Mamounia, to exhibit her argan and saffron, like high quality saffron from Morocco. So this is, yes.
Oh, that's such a good story. That's okay. So that is, again, I think all these stories are very inspiring, and thank you for supporting her in that. Would you please also just give us one quick statistic or assumption that we might have about working in Morocco, something we may not know?
Sure. Well, women in Morocco represent about 52% in the population, and 25% are, of these women are working in informal sector and mostly harsh sector like rural agriculture and textiles. Only 10% of businesses are owned by women, and 70% of these women-owned businesses are in e-commerce services. And recently, as several women, they were hit by COVID. But the good news, or the sign of optimism, is that these women were able to convert their activities and go to e-commerce. And you will see them in Instagram or Shopify, selling new innovative products. So it was easy for some women to shift and to innovate, and so they can, survive.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rabia.
The last, information, and this is maybe similar also in Egypt, as Sylvia mentioned, there is a whole emergence of, women in technology, and you will see about like 52% of women now are graduating as engineers. You see them in coding, and you see them owning their own startups and tech startups. So, there's some great reason of optimism that women will emerge as tech, entrepreneurs, and they will keep improving the world. And I always say, when women thrive, the whole world thrives.
I really hope they continue to succeed. My daughter is in college for software engineering, and I want a kinder place for her to work. I really hope that it continues to get better. Thank you so much, Rabia. I would love to turn to Margaret Alele now. Hi, Margaret.
Hi again, Karen.
Hey, listen, again, would you mind sharing some surprising facts and assumptions we might have about working in Nigeria? Maybe some things that people outside Nigeria may not understand or know.
Well, first thing we need to know, which is very, very obvious, is that we are the largest population in the continent. We are, clearly the largest in terms of GDP. But I always say to everyone who wants to do business in Nigeria that, doing business in Nigeria is seeking for diamonds in the midst of thorns. This is not to drive people away, but that is reality. And as you may bleed, the degree of bleeding depends on how you're able to succeed. But when you succeed, you're going to do really well. And a lot of that really has to do with, being able to understand, the landscape, understand the ecosystem you operate. And moving towards the conversation around women, with the over 200 million population in Nigeria, 49% are women, 41% of this are women entrepreneurs. So you have 3 million women as entrepreneurs. But in the same vein, what you find is that these women are mostly in the area of what you call the necessity entrepreneurs. So they get into this not because they see opportunities, market opportunities, but because, it's convenient. I have to take care of my baby, or I have to supplement the family livelihood. So this is really the starting point of women businesses in Nigeria. We have a structure, it's called the apprenticeship system, very common to the northeast of Nigeria, that has really led to a lot of big time entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, this is more patriarchal, and so you don't have women involved in this process that has really led to the growth of a lot of big entrepreneurs. But having said that, it's not all doom and gloom. So you still have a lot of women who, especially during COVID, start seeing opportunities in e-commerce, things around healthcare, and a lot of opportunities around that space. So I don't want to really rehash what my friends have said on this panel, but a couple of challenges that women face, remain the same. Issues around access to information, access to funds and finance. But again, I differ slightly when I look at things around special funding for women and all, because I believe that women should see themselves as competing, not because they are women, but because they can deliver results, right? So that's the position I have. And so you find out that you're seeing a lot of some women playing in the not too typical space that you expect women to play, which is confectionaries, fashion, beauty. I mean, these are great, but in the past you find women very scanty in the area of STEM, right? So where you have things like e-health, or things like having a training platform for women to learn things like programming, the software engineering, software stuff, and things like that would really help them improve their businesses. So we weren't seeing that before, but we're beginning to see that right now. And so I believe the story is a good story to tell. And so again, something else, as an AmCham, we don't have MSMEs. We're, let's say, typically like blue blood type US companies. So this is a great opportunity really to have MSMEs, join the AmCham and see, what the opportunities exist in the space that I just talked about.
Yes. I mean, it sounds like joining the Nigeria AmCham could be a huge boost for women that are trying to move their business maybe from a convenience business to something more. Margaret, you have such a long experience. You were in the private sector, the public sector. You have worked across so many different industries as well. As you think about women just functioning effectively in Nigeria, whether again they be a female executive or a female entrepreneur, is there one piece of advice that you would give us?
First of all, I mean, I'm very happy to do that. Yeah. So first of all, you have to understand the business landscape. You have to understand the policies, because, and I'm not sure it's just peculiar to Nigeria. So you have, policies and regulations and bills really falling over themselves and growing, almost mutating the way we have, COVID in recent times, right? So you need to be apace of these policies. You need to understand the ecosystem. So that's one. And then obviously
Great. I would say that's great. So understanding the policies. I want to make sure we have a chance to get to our other two. Again, Margaret, thank you for bringing your expertise to us today. Really wonderful. I'd love to turn next to Angela in South Africa. How are you today, Angela?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So, if you wouldn't mind, I think that there's some surprising facts and assumptions. That's been one of the most illuminating aspects of this conversation. Could you just share some with us around South Africa, Angela Russell?
Yeah, so I think, with regards to female entrepreneurship, we definitely are seeing a growth within that. We've had probably a 7% growth recently, from 40 to 47% of all SMEs in South Africa actually led by women, which I think is fantastic. And recently, MasterCard released their index of women entrepreneurs, and South Africa ranked first in Africa and, came 23rd globally. But I think also what's important is that women hire women, and that women are role models, for future generations. So I think, when you have a woman entrepreneur, you kind of get a little bit more than maybe you do with the male entrepreneurs.
I have to admit, I hire a lot of women too. Yeah, we work together well. So thank you for that. That's an interesting statistic. I wonder, is there a success story that you could share with us from South Africa?
Oh, and there are so many, but I think, the one that stands out for me is that of Dino Leoma. I mean, she's 29 years old. She had already co-founded 3 innovative companies within the biotech sphere. And in cooperation with IBM, the one company, Deep Medical Therapeutics, is working on an AI system to help doctors deliver the best therapies for drug-resistant diseases like TB. And one of the other companies that she has co-founded is developing a device for faster HIV testing. So, I mean, it's very interesting and very needed within the African continent.
Very needed. Wow, that's incredible. Such smart, amazing young women out there doing these sorts of things. So lastly, I would just know, as you think about working within South Africa, are there any ways to find opportunities or uncover any strategies that you have for us about being very effective within your country?
So I think, like the rest of the ladies are on the chat, I think, understanding the market and finding that gap is really essential. It's creating innovation and meaningful solutions that are relevant to Africa, and that's the difference. It needs to be relevant to Africa. It's benchmarking products against the best in class. Even though we are Africans, we still demand high quality products. And I think, what opportunities within large organizations, there are opportunities, there are competitions for entrepreneurs that can actually enter within large multinationals or national organizations, which actually can lead to funding for them. So I think it's to go through those websites where you are going to look and see a match, for your product or solution. I think networking, Margaret said, it's like-minded individuals, and there are a number of various entrepreneur associations in South Africa, as well as, small business SME groups that can provide mentorship and coaching. Just on the last thing, I think, one of my favorite innovations, and it's so simple, is that of the Hello Tractor app. So if you haven't heard of it, go and look at it, which was specifically developed for farmers in Africa and actually has solved some of the issues, African issues with innovation. And I think that's key, is when you're going to look for opportunities in entrepreneurship, really the ones that solve African issues are the ones that tend to be very successful.
Brilliant. So I think across the board, this is a great strategy for all of us to think about in being specific, not just to a need or thinking global. I mean, we all want to think globally, but finding a true need within a very specific place, often that specificity is what drives success, is what I hear you saying, Angela.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. And our final panelist that we'll hear from is Rose in Jordan. Hello, Rose.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello. So, I don't know. It just seems to work really well. Can you start with surprising facts and assumptions for us? I know as we think about Jordan, people outside the country may think certain things are true that you could maybe upturn for us. Tell us about Jordan.
So Jordan is a very small economy. We are 10 million in population. Over the years, we have received an influx of refugees from the neighboring countries, from Syrian to Iraqi. We had Palestinian refugees, and that really strained our economy. But what we've succeeded at is integrating, those refugees within the economy. We worked specifically with women programs to make sure that we build capacity. Our economy is based on services. More than 85% of our economy is comprises of MSMEs, and
Wow.
we also are our largest trading partner is the U.S. We enjoy a free trade agreement with the U.S., and this year marks the 20th anniversary of the FTA. The trade balance between us and the U.S. is actually equal. To a certain extent, we have a very large USAID mission in Jordan, and we have a new mission director that's extremely passionate about supporting women programs in Jordan, and we have a great upcoming USAID project called WELLTI, among other donor projects that are supporting women entrepreneurship is a big thing in Jordan because such a small country counts for about 25% of all entrepreneurs in the region. And about 80% of all Arabic content on the internet is of Jordanian origin. We have companies like Souq, was acquired by Amazon, for example, companies like Maktub, who was acquired by Yahoo at some point. So you're talking about big success stories. Some shocking fact is like, with such an educated population, about 60% of women in the workforce have bachelor degrees and above, but only 17% of women in Jordan are active in the economy. And that's one of the lowest in the world, which is really surprising because women are driven, women are talented, and you feel that there are there's a passion now, they're hungry for business, and the government policies are pushing towards making sure that they remove all these barriers for women to engage in the economy. We're a very young population. Over 50% of the population is below the age of 18. And
Wow.
yeah, that's that's why we believe that we have the future. And with the youth, with the innovative ideas, the access to technology, the cooperation that we feel, it's easy to give statistics, and we can share all of this with you and all the programs that are there. But what I want to share is the fact that growing support to women in Jordan has been organic, because we are a very close, community. It has been extremely successful for us to have these mentorship programs, women looking up to other women. We've had several initiatives, all driven by the private sector. And the public-private dialogue created initiatives that are supported by the government but are led by the private sector. And we've seen women succeed in reaching not only positions in government, for example, or the parliament and businesses, but also entrepreneurship has been major. AmCham specifically started about 20 years ago with a program with the International Labor Organization called Start and Improve Your Business. And throughout this program, 82% of the women of the entrepreneurs trained were women, and those were mostly in the governorate. So you see that there's an appetite, and a lot of them started their own businesses and have been sustainable. So the policies have been focusing on the area of making sure that the women are empowered with access to knowledge, because they need to have the right business idea, access to technology, and to know-how in business management, access to finance, and most importantly, access to market, because that is the most important thing that will help these women succeed in their businesses.
Rose, this is just there's so many things that you brought up here, right? I mean, what an untapped potential there is, and that is being responded to. And I do think you're right that it's in the private sector when change starts to happen the most, and that often pushes policy and public sector change. Just in 30 seconds or 1 minute, if you could, is there a female success story that you can share with us? You mentioned a couple that had been acquired, by Yahoo especially. Is there another one you could share with us?
We have so many success stories, and the ones are the ones like women starting huge, VCs, for example, and having their own funds to invest in other women. We have so many like that. But there's a very special woman called Fida Tahir who founded a company called Zaytune.com in 2011, and then another very a successful company called Atbaqi in 2014, creating the largest digital recipe platform in Arabic in the world. Fida not only did that, because we have so many success stories around the Middle East and in Jordan. But what's interesting is that those entrepreneurs don't only focus on growing their business, they focus on reaching out to support other women. So Fida started and co-founded the fast-growing Women in Business Arabia network with thousands, tens of thousands, if not more, of women involved. And that network is what all the other CEOs alluded to, is that we need to have this network to grow. And without these networks, we will not be able to get the access to knowledge, the access to markets, and the access to innovation. We need that creativity And there's nothing better than having, entrepreneurs learn from their peers, and ensuring that there is this confidence that you build. Because at the end of the day, if you ask me what's the key to all this success, is changing mindset. Because in the Middle East, women have taken a role which is extremely important, building that community by being great mothers and taking care of their families. But they're capable of so much more. And if you ask me what's like really special about these women, is them being able to juggle their time and maintain this balance of being able to take care of their families and really be successful entrepreneurs and very committed employees, which render them capable of growing within their companies.
Yes,
Last,
yes. Rose, thank you so much.
please go ahead.
I think we're going to end on that idea that it is mindset. It's mindset that and I think the other one is network. For example, all 6 of these countries, all these women know each other. They support each other. They're creating places for us to make business. Obviously, we did not have enough time with all these fantastic panelists. I'm sure you have a lot of other questions. I think that we might be able to potentially do some more here. Camille, I'm just going to put that little idea in your head that we might do another one of these very, very quickly. I'd like to thank the staff and directors in particular of the AmShams that spent so much time on the front end to make sure that this would all come together, for their amazing CEO directors. And within ITA, I very much want to thank the country managers, the desk officers, the local commercial specialists, and especially the senior commercial officers. Of course, the drivers behind this, George Littman, Karen Buress, Terry Batch. And on my team, I have to thank Melissa Smokle, April Alt, and Alex Layfeld for helping us to come together. And I want to turn it back over again to the visionary woman who helped to put this together, Camille Richardson. Could you bring us home?
Yes, Karen, thank you so much. I've just been dying to jump in because
I
I'm
know,
just so
I know,
excited about this fantastic partnership. You're absolutely right. I am someone who personally believes in the value of connection. Actually, I'm actually a connection coach. And the fact that we have this global network of trade professionals and business professionals who are dedicated to basically linking us. The more countries do business with each other, the greater the chances are of prosperity. And that's exactly what we need in the world today. I think that one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that it has created a lot of challenges for us to think about how we're going to be flexible and pivot and overcome. It has underscored the value of technology as a means of connection, and it has caused us to maybe think about how we might reshape the future. Clearly, women have a key role to play in reshaping that future. And I believe that platforms like this give us the opportunity to link arms and join hands and reshape that future in a way that is something that is inclusive and equitable, and allows everyone a full opportunity to participate. We already have great examples of partnership. The 20th year of the US-Jordan FTA. In fact, Rose, I had a chance to meet with Ambassador Gina just yesterday and her team just to think about how we can roll up our sleeves with the King and Queen coming in next week to really reshape that relationship moving forward. We also have an FTA with Morocco, another key market. We have a commercial investment dialogue with Nigeria, ways for us to structure commercial engagement. We have so much going on in every market, and it's the people that make things happen. It's not just the events, and it's not just the pieces of paper. If there's anything I've learned from my nearly 25 years overseas, it's the people that make things count. People like Rick and Eli in Egypt, people like Shakir and Kenza in Morocco, people like Jennifer and Ngozi in Nigeria, people like Janae and her team in Jordan, and I could go on and on. People like Thomas and Eric in UAE, and of course all of you. So if there's one thing I would just say, it's not over. The pandemic is not over. We still have a series of challenges that we face that we can link arms and discuss and come up with innovative solutions to overcome. One example of that is unfortunately happening just this morning in South Africa. As the Deputy Assistant Secretary for this region, I would be remiss without expressing, deep concern and sympathy for what is going on there. To acknowledge our colleagues from AmCham and from our posts, who have showed up anyway, who've been able to come and take part in this and just show the importance of resiliency in the face of this. We are looking at this with great care. We want everyone to stay safe. We know that things like this can particularly impact women in a very difficult way. But look, success begets success. That's something that our organization lives by. It's the way that we face and overcome these challenges that create that success. We're on the march to March, as I already mentioned, and we're not alone. We have our private networks with the AmCham and other partners. We also have our interagency partners, which I would be remiss if I failed to mention that we have a very strong interagency team committed to promoting more trade and investment ties, committed to capacity building with U.S. government resources in the Middle East and Africa, committed to creating a commercially enabling environment for U.S. companies. You know, we're not alone in this. We have the resources of the U.S. government behind us. We have the president committed to coming out of the pandemic by creating partnerships for shared prosperity. And I can't think of a better platform, and I can't think of a better group of people to have that happen. So I really want to thank everyone so much for their time today. I want to thank Karen and her team and everybody in our US field and our headquarters and our posts that linked arms and joined hands to have this happen. And I see this as a shot in the arm and a boost forward with this WELLTI initiative. And I look forward to getting more ideas on how we can make this something that is inclusive and informative and useful for everyone. So thank you so much for your time today.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.